Jasmine Crockett still conceals the meaning of Hot Wheels. The Texas Congresswoman still won't apologize over making fun of Texas Governor Abbott's disability. Here's what she said that kicked it off.
We in these hot-ass Texas streets, honey. Y'all know we got Governor Hot Wheels down there. Come on now.
Whoa.
And the only thing hot about him is that he is a hot-ass mess, honey. So,
Now, she claims that she wasn't talking about Abbott's wheelchair at all. Yet she's mentioned Abbott's wheels before. In 2022, she posted Beto's rolling around the state. Where's Abbott rolling?
Have you ever witnessed the chaos that erupts when Jasmine Crockett strolls into a verbal face-off with Gutfeld and Tyrus, fully convinced she's about to dominate the entire conversation? She walked in with that "I own this room" energy, clutching a recycled catchphrase like it was Excalibur itself, her grin radiating the kind of overconfidence you usually see in someone who hasn't read the fine print yet. It was the sort of smirk that silently screams, "I've got this in the bag." But before she could even plant her feet, her carefully packaged arguments were already being hauled off into intellectual witness protection. Gutfeld, with that trademark smirk of his, didn't just counter her points, he unleashed a wave of sarcasm so sharp it sliced right through her narrative. It wasn't a gentle jab, it was the verbal equivalent of a freight train with no brakes, barreling straight into her talking points and scattering them like leaves in a storm. You could almost hear the metaphorical crash as her points hit the floor. And just when she might have been catching her breath, in stepped Tyrus. Oh, he didn't simply toss a casual remark her way, he went full stand-up comic meets heavyweight champ, dropping punchlines so crushing they might as well have left cracks in the studio floor. In that moment, Crockett's carefully curated political warrior image started to unravel. She didn't look like the confident, fearless contender she wanted to be, she looked like someone who had accidentally wandered onto the wrong stage, only to realize too late it was a late-night roast, and she was the main course. She tried to fire back, but every clapback she attempted was met with double the force, wrapped in layers of humor so cutting you could feel the sting through the screen. The audience, both in studio and online, wasn't just watching, they were witnessing a full-blown dismantling. And the big question everyone's asking is, what exactly sparked this complete and total verbal demolition?
She's so rotten, she wants migrants picking cotton. We present to you Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, who made this shocking argument why America needs immigrants. Roll it, Alfred.
So I had to go around the country and educate people about what immigrants do for this country, or the fact that we are a country of immigrants.
Right.
The fact is, ain't none of y'all trying to go and farm right now. Okay, so I'm lying. Raise your hands.
When the wheels fall off.
You're not. We done picking cotton. We are. You can't pay us enough to find a plantation.
Tyrus, I go to you for no particular reason.
Why is this clip making the rounds online like a championship knockout on repeat? The answer's simple: once you've seen it, you instantly understand why people can't stop replaying it and laughing. Jasmine Crockett, now, that's a name that sounds like it belongs on a vintage 80s action movie poster. Picture it, her standing in slow motion, backlit by a massive explosion, looking ready to take on the world. With a name like that, you'd expect someone to storm onto the scene armed with razor-sharp comebacks, fearless energy, and a stage presence that makes everyone sit up a little straighter. But reality? Reality had other plans. What we got instead was Crockett attempting to play political chess with a busted pawn, circling the board endlessly and still somehow shocked when she wasn't winning. Instead of delivering fresh, fiery points that land like knockout blows, she leaned on the same worn-out political catchphrases we've all heard 1,000 times. They fell out of her mouth like handfuls of confetti tossed into an empty street, flashy for a split second, but landing nowhere and doing absolutely nothing. And when the conversation reached boiling point, she didn't rise to the challenge with substance. No, she retreated to finger-wagging theatrics, waving her hands like she was trying to prove something to herself more than to her audience. It was the body language of someone desperate to maintain control without realizing control had already slipped through their fingers. The more she talked, the clearer it became, she wasn't out there fighting for the people in any meaningful way. She was stuck in an endless, self-contained loop, like a virtual meeting about how to fight the system that never reaches a single action point. Meanwhile, the real battle? It was happening outside her little bubble, and she wasn't anywhere near it. Every sentence she spoke felt less like political leadership and more like an improv audition where the only goal is to keep talking, no matter how little sense it makes.
From there, Gutfeld. I'm going to explain to you what happened.
Okay.
Same thing that happened on this show.
Yes.
She got the job. That was the get the job voice. Remember when I first met you? Good evening, Gutfeld. It's
Yes.
nice to meet you. It's a real pleasure to be here. Oh, cool. Once I got the job, what it is, let's crack jokes. So that's all it is. That's all it is, you know.
Crockett's sudden rise into the spotlight happened faster than a TikTok dance trend that burns bright for a week before fading into the algorithm's graveyard. Her viral moment wasn't the result of a groundbreaking policy or a hard-fought victory, it was about being in the right place, at the right time, with the right expression on her face. She has perfected the art of looking intensely serious while delivering lines that, when you strip them down, say absolutely nothing new. It's a performance skill that might earn applause on social media, but in politics, it's a hollow trick. Her political resume is so thin it could be mistaken for a single-page flyer. If she were a Netflix series, critics wouldn't be calling it a must-watch. They'd be posting spoiler-free warnings about the overwhelming binge regret. You'd click play expecting gripping plot twists, bold moves, and moments that make headlines, but what you'd actually get is a loop of flashy teasers that never lead to the main event. Her brand is built on optics, well-tailored blazers, a confident stance at the podium, and an expression that says, "I'm in charge here." But when you scratch past the surface and ask, okay, but what has she actually done? The silence is deafening. Her position on Law and Order is a perfect example of this double game. Talk tough on crime to project strength, then slip in, but maybe we should redefine crime, to keep the activist base smiling. In plain English, it's about collecting the brownie points without doing the heavy lifting. Both sides walk away unimpressed, wondering which version of Crockett they're actually dealing with. And her speeches? They land with all the impact of a damp paper towel, soft, forgettable, and quick to fall apart. They're stuffed with buzzwords, sprinkled with a little feel-good fluff, and topped off with the bare minimum of woke jargon to make it seem like she's saying something profound. But take a closer look, and it's all vapor, nothing that actually moves the needle.
To get the job, you know, you gotta leave the Negro at home and do the, like, you know, the what it is afternoon, and then once you get in, you can say whatever you want to say. Listen, everyone talks different with their crew and their people. Everyone has a different way of talking when they're with other people or whatever. She's too comfortable, and she thinks she's clever when she does that. But here's the cold part: somebody's writing that for her.
Yeah.
That's why she had to remember and look back, because apparently Hot Wheels she thought was going to be someone thought it was a wonderful joke and it was going to do well. So she set it up, but she doesn't read good because she's like, and this, and then she said the Hot Wheels, and as soon as she said it, it didn't get the reaction that she thought it.
Half the time, you can't tell if Jasmine Crockett is running for political office or auditioning to be the keynote speaker at a corporate mindfulness retreat. Either way, the end result is identical. You walk away trying to figure out what she just said and why you bothered listening. Her delivery is so airy and lightweight that you almost expect her to end each speech with a calm, namaste, or a casual, let's vibe check this issue. But here's the thing, the weak, surface-level speeches are just the appetizer. The main course? Her so-called progressive policies that look great on paper but fold under the slightest pressure. Take her much-hyped push for crime reform. At first glance, it sounds compassionate, balanced, even noble. But when you peel away the glittering buzzwords, it's the political equivalent of trying to patch a leaking roof with glitter glue. Sure, it catches the light, but it's not stopping the flood. Helping people matters, no one's disputing that, but Crockett's version of reform is more like punching new holes in the boat while shouting about saving the passengers. That's not reform, that's chaos with a press release. And her legislative track record? It's full of bills with headline-grabbing names and glossy talking points, the kind of thing you'd expect to find in a gift bag at a political gala. They make a lot of noise at first, but the impact fizzles out in seconds, leaving nothing behind. She's mastered the art of making noise, but when it comes to building something that actually lasts, her success rate is about as solid as a sandcastle at high tide. If you want a political legacy, you have to build more than a trending moment, but Crockett seems far more interested in the moment than the movement.
We're not. We done picking cotton. We are. You can't pay us enough to find a plantation.
Tyrus, I go to you for no particular reason. Is she making any point there?
Like this makes me wish my mom made different father choices.
And then there's that unmistakable air of self-importance. The way Crockett carries herself, it's as if destiny personally tapped her on the shoulder and whispered, "You're the one who will lead the revolution." But reality paints a different picture. The only revolutionary skill she's shown so far is her ability to talk for minutes, sometimes hours, without delivering a single clear, actionable idea. That's not leadership, that's verbal gymnastics. If you want to see where she truly shines, forget the legislative floor, head straight to her social media accounts. They're a masterclass in curated branding, the perfectly angled selfies, the pre-approved hashtags for every trending cause, the captions that sound deep until you read them twice and realize they say absolutely nothing. It's the political version of posting a moody black and white coffee photo with a quote from a philosopher you've never actually read. She's quick to join the online cancel train whenever someone else stumbles, throwing the spotlight on their flaws while sidestepping any serious questions about her own record. It's the political equivalent of standing safely on the sidelines, yelling advice to the players on the field, but never actually stepping into the game yourself. It looks good in the highlight reel, makes for plenty of likes and retweets, but when it's time for real, measurable impact, she's nowhere to be found. And that's where Tyrus comes in. If Greg Gutfeld warmed up the crowd with razor-sharp sarcasm, Tyrus was the heavy artillery. His verbal punches weren't just quick jabs, they were precision strikes, each one landing with the kind of force that leaves the target stunned and the audience roaring. It was less of a debate and more of a controlled demolition, and Crockett? She was standing in the middle of it without a helmet.
Right. This is why when white people write black slang, weird happens.
Yeah.
And this is what happens.
Well,
Like, if I wanted to get ethnic on somebody, I wouldn't call Joe and be like, "Hey, Joe, write me some hood." No offense, Tyrus. I get right to it. Gee Willikers. That's not the guy. What? That doesn't sound like Joe Mackey?
The entire exchange played out like watching a heavyweight boxing champ square off against a featherweight ballerina who thought she'd signed up for a graceful recital. On one side, you had Greg and Tyrus delivering blow after blow, a mix of cold, hard facts and brutal comedic timing. On the other, you had Crockett, twirling around, trying to collect style points while the scoreboard told a completely different story. By the time the dust started to settle, she wasn't just behind on points, she was flat out being outclassed. Each counter from Greg and Tyrus didn't just poke holes in her narrative, it tore the whole thing apart. And the most brutal part? A lot of those hits came from simply holding her own contradictions up to the light. She claims to stand for the people, but her track record suggests she's more interested in standing on the right side of a trending hashtag than on the right side of reality. It's the classic politician's trap: perfect the optics, keep the Instagram feed looking lively, post just enough to seem active, and hope no one checks the actual results. But here's the problem: under the unforgiving lights of Greg and Tyrus's stage, there's no hiding behind filters. When the spotlight hits, the smoke and mirrors vanish, and her brand of activism starts looking less like leadership and more like an expensive Instagram photo shoot. The irony couldn't be sharper. She speaks about dismantling systems, but the only system she's mastered is political self-preservation. She's like that kid in class who raises their hand for every project, volunteers for every committee, and somehow still never turns in any homework. All talk, no grind, a steady stream of noise, and almost zero tangible results.
Dana, Governor Hot Wheels, she claims that it had nothing to do with the fact that he actually moves by wheels in a wheelchair, and he's good looking.
Her cleanup was worse. That was one of the worst things I've ever seen. It was super dumb. So basically she's saying, I didn't do it. And even I did do it, though.
At the core of it all, Crockett's politics seem far less about fixing broken systems and far more about polishing her public image. She sprinkles in words like equity, systemic reform, and community-led solutions the way a chef might sprinkle seasoning over an empty plate, hoping the presentation distracts you from the fact that there's no main course. It sounds inspiring in a 10-second soundbite, but the illusion shatters the moment you ask, okay, but how are you actually going to make that happen? That's when the magic act collapses. Her vision of justice is essentially rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic without acknowledging the ship is sinking. She's too busy debating what color the chairs should be to notice the water rising around her. And voters? They're starting to see the disconnect. People who genuinely want safer streets, stronger communities, and concrete results are left scratching their heads, wondering how she can call to defund the police on Monday and then promise common-sense crime measures by Friday. One week, she's painting herself as a fearless outsider ready to dismantle corruption. The next, she's smiling for photo ops with party insiders who are about as anti-establishment as a Starbucks on every corner. That's not strategy, it's political shape-shifting. The end result is a messy plate at a political buffet, a scoop of tough on crime to please moderates, a ladle of defund the police for the activist base, and a sprinkle of systemic reform to tick the woke box. But the flavors don't mix, and no one's walking away satisfied.